The Boston Bruins passed their first big test against an Eastern Conference opponent this season by beating the Detroit Red Wings on Saturday, putting aside the late game collapse the previous game against the Anaheim Ducks. We're going to talk about how they pulled it off, the looming decision on Matt Poitras, and preview tonight's game against the Florida Panthers here on a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Be. Today is Monday, October 30th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'm joined today here by Bessie, the official mascot of Locked On Boston Bruins. Bessie, please sit down. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best ticketing app. All you have to do is download it today, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase for your next sports tickets, comedy, theater, what have you. Quick reminder, you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins on X, Instagram, and Threads. You can find me, my dad jokes, hockey thoughts at Ian C. McLaren. Let's start today by talking about Saturday's game against the Detroit Red Wings, where the Bruins won their first matchup against an Eastern Conference opponent, their 8th game of the season. Just a crazy schedule. The Detroit Red Wings were off to a great start as well, second in the Atlantic Division, and the Boston Bruins were able to come out with the 4-1 win, thanks to 2 goals and an assist from Bruins winger David Pastrnak, including a key, clutch, marvelous penalty shot goal to put the Bruins up 3-1 late in the third period. Pastrnak now up to 13 points in 8 games, 8 goals, and 5 assists. Now, that goal was huge because the Bruins were a little lackadaisical in the third period, and it really looked as though the Red Wings were going to tie it up. It was 2-0 after the first period, thanks to goals for Pavel Zacha, a huge goal for him coming off that rather dreadful ending to the game against the Ducks, where he had 3 chances to clear, couldn't get it out of the zone. Power play goal, huge for him, for his confidence. Happy to be able to shake off that performance against the Ducks and make a positive contribution. Charlie McAvoy made it 2-0 in the first, the eventual game-winning goal. But the Red Wings were really pressing in the third period. Joe Veleno cut it to 2-1 at 6:40 of the third, and they were really pushing and pressing for the equalizer, and it seemed inevitable that it was going to happen. Thankfully, Pastrnak had a bit of a breakaway, was slashed by defenseman Jake Wallman, and he made good on that opportunity to put the Bruins up 3-1. Red Wings coach Derek Lalonde said that was a tough penalty. Obviously, they're down 2-1. Everybody in the building can kind of feel that the Red Wings were going to tie that game. They hit a post. They had some grade A chances in the third and made a soft play, little saucer through the middle that ends up being a power play. So again, that was a key turning point for the Bruins and David Pastrnak, who scored the empty net goal at 7:41 of the third period to make it 4-1, banking the puck into the net off the sideboards from his own zone. He was just trying to get it out, and he just wanted to get a change, banked it off the boards, and it went in. This was his 600th career game, if you can believe it. Time just really flying by here as he has a monster performance in his 600th game. And since the penalty shot was introduced in 1934-35, so we're talking almost 100 years here, Pastrnak required the fewest games in NHL history to score 2 penalty shot goals in a season. This was his second of the season so far. He scored one against the Predators early on, and the previous mark was set by Brian Rolston. It took him 20 games to score 2 penalty shot goals, and Pastrnak shattering that record here early on. What is the NHL record for penalty shot goals in a season? Check that out here. But the end result, Bruins 4-1 winners over the Detroit Red Wings, jumping even further up the standings here in the Atlantic Division. They have 15 out of a possible 16 points so far this season, a .938 point percentage, a 4-point lead over the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Montreal Canadiens, and Detroit Red Wings, all who have 11 points. Crazy that Montreal is up there, but 5-2-1 to start the season after having lost Kirby Dach to injury. And we'll talk about this more on tomorrow's episode when we update the Atlantic Division power rankings. And later on, when we preview tonight's game against the Florida Panthers, who are still near the bottom of the division. Now, one of the big stories of the game was Matt Poitras' continued strong play. And we're going to talk about his status as the Bruins enter Game 9 of the regular season coming up here after the. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and you can find exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll get the best price every time. If you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Boston Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on tomorrow's podcast, we will recap tonight's game against the Florida Panthers and also update the Atlantic Division power rankings. I mentioned David Pastrnak, huge game against the Detroit Red Wings. His penalty shot goal was the difference maker in that one as the Bruins were kind of reeling. Matt Poitras, once again, key in this one. His point streak was ended. However, he put in such an incredible effort. I was intent on watching how he played in this one as the Bruins approached this decision on whether or not to return him back here to Guelph or to keep him up in Boston for the entirety of 2023-24. Few plays stood out to me. One where he got knocked down behind the net, gets up, still able to make a pass out front. There was another shift where he had a scoring opportunity at one end, was thwarted. Red Wings came back, and Poitras raced down the ice and got the puck right back. Very Patrice-esque. And then near the end of the second period, he was just cycling the puck, eluding the Red Wings defenders, set up a couple scoring chances late in the second period. Just a dynamic shift for the 19-year-old. Now, tonight is game 9. And as a reminder, the Bruins have 9 games in which to decide whether or not to keep him up for the entire season. Once he hits game 10, the first year of his entry-level contract kicks in, and that counts against the cap for the entirety of the season. If they send him back after tonight, then that entry-level contract will slide and push back his first RFA deal. 19 years old, certainly looks as though he belongs. All right. He stands out on the ice. It's not as though he is struggling out there. It's not as though he is barely hanging on or hitting a wall, looking fatigued, looking overwhelmed. Jim Montgomery said he really likes the way he responds every time he gets tested. Even, like I said, at the end of the second period, there was, this was a different time. There was a shift where his line was out there a long time, hemmed in the Bruins' end, and Montgomery thought, oh boy, he's bent over. You could tell he was exhausted. Legs were straight-legged. And then somehow he finds juice to actually create a turnover and get the puck out of the zone. His will stands out to Jim Montgomery. They see his skill, they see the smarts, but his will is very underrated. We've got a hockey player on our hands, Jim Montgomery said. And again, that will, you can see that when he gets knocked down behind the net, still manages to get a pass out front. And again, the Bruins have one more game to determine if Poitras will stick with the NHL roster all season long. And Montgomery said they haven't made that decision as of Saturday against the Red Wings. They're going to wait until the 9th game, which is tonight against the Florida Panthers. But, quote, he's been playing great. And Montgomery has repeatedly praised Poitras' play. And he's been getting big minutes. He's been playing in the top 6. And at this point, it would be much more of a surprise if he were to be sent back as opposed to keeping him with the big club all season long. Charlie McAvoy said the biggest thing that stands out for him is Poitras' confidence with the puck. They played a lot of teams that play man-on-man style, and you saw him many times feel really confident with the puck, whether he's in the offensive zone, whether he's going to carry it, going to hold it, protect it, wait until he sees a good play. Super impressive. Shades of Mark Savard, David Krejci, and yes, sometimes even Patrice Bergeron in the defensive zone, particularly. He has a keen sense of knowing how to collapse defenses by getting skaters out of position, setting the stage for quality chances, passing to his teammates, very Krejci-esque. And again, at this point, I just don't see him being sent back. Me being in Guelph, I would love to see him back here with the Storm, just carving up OHL defenses. But what he's doing at the NHL level, he's beyond the OHL. They should have that exception where maybe he could go to the AHL, but at the moment, he belongs in the NHL. He's been really good, especially for a young guy, Pavel Zacha said. Poised with the puck, making plays, winning puck battles. Really hard for a young guy to do, and he's been showing that he belongs in the NHL, according to Pavel Zacha. Again, the Bruins reluctant to make that declaration. They have until after tonight's game to do so. The Bruins have a couple days off following tonight's game. They play tonight against the Panthers, and then they will play next on Thursday, I believe, against the Toronto Maple Leafs. 7:30 p.m. start. So that could be his 10th game, locked in. The Maple Leafs were his team growing up. He's an Ontario boy. His parents have said they'll be shifting their rooting interests, obviously. So that could be the game where he is sealed, signed, delivered as a full-time center for the Bruins for the majority of the season. The Bruins will make their decision at some point following tonight's game against the Panthers. Safest bet at the moment that he will be around for the majority or the balance of the season. What could influence that decision the other way? Well, the Bruins have said it's a bit of a transition year, so perhaps sticking to a plan, they might want to send him back to junior and not burn a year of his entry-level contract, have him up full-time beginning next season, 3 full seasons under his ELC, which is obviously team friendly because it's $900,000 or whatever. If they keep him up, he'll be due for his second contract a year earlier than expected. So that could be the only thing I think which would keep them there. We all know that the best laid plans sometimes don't come to fruition. Their plan was to stick with Linus Ullmark in the playoffs last year. Didn't work out. The Toronto Blue Jays, forgive my Ontario-ness here, but had a plan to remove Jose Barrios in a playoff game. Backfire on them. Huge against the Minnesota Twins. You can have a plan, but sometimes things happen and it becomes apparent that you have to pivot, and this is an example. They probably did not envision Matt Poitras being up all season long, but he has kind of forced their hand, and if they want to put the best possible team out there, then he belongs on the roster. And we'll see him in action tonight against the Florida Panthers, a game that we'll preview coming up here after the break. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options like spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get in on the action this NFL season. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet on FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Going back to our point about the penalty shots, by the way, the record for most penalty shot goals in a career is 7 from Pavel Bure. David Pastrnak now up to 3 after scoring 1 in 2016 and now 2 to begin this season. He also has 3 misses, so he is 3 for 6 for his career. Missed one back in March of this year, by the way. All right, so the Bruins tonight taking on the Florida Panthers. The Panthers are 4-3 to begin the season, 8 points through 7 games. They have been missing Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour, so that's obviously a huge hit for them. Those two have been practicing. Not sure if they're quite ready for tonight's game, and obviously that would be a tide turner potentially if either one can be back in the lineup. Right now, the Bruins, the better team, and certainly will be looking to beat the Panthers after what happened in the playoffs this past spring. The Panthers right now have the 21st ranked offense, 2.86 goals per game. The Bruins 14th at 3.25. In terms of team defense, the Bruins first in the NHL after allowing 1.5 goals per game through their first 8. The Panthers still pretty good without those top 2 defenders. They're 10th at 2.86. When it comes to Special teams, Panthers have the 19th ranked power play, 16%. The Bruins, not that much better, 17.2%. They are ranked 17th. However, when it comes to the penalty kill, can't get any wider here. Bruins first, 97.1%. Panthers dead last at 66.7%, killing only 2/3 of their opposition's power plays. So not great. And that's certainly an area where the Bruins can take advantage tonight. David Pastrnak, 8 points over the Bruins last 5 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, leads the team in all those categories over the past handful. On the Florida side of things, Sam Reinhart with 6 goals, 7 points over their last 5 games. Matthew Tkachuk with 4 assists. So Reinhart red hot. In net, Sergei Bobrovsky has started 6 games, 906 save percentage. It'll likely be Linus Ullmark as Jeremy Swayman started the game the other night against the Red Wings. Ullmark 3-0-1 with a 937 save percentage. Players to watch for the Panthers. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk, always there, disruptive. He's off to a bit of a slow start, only 1 goal through 7 games. Evan Rodrigues has been very hot, 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points. He's one back of Reinhart for the team lead. Of course, Alexander Barkov, Carter Verhaeghe, Anton Lundell looking to get hot. These are all guys to keep an eye on, as well as Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who has been stepping up. Should note, Mike Riley, who was signed by the Panthers after being bought out by the Bruins, has yet to make an appearance for the Panthers. So, another winnable game here for the Boston Bruins. The Panthers, shorthanded, can't kill a penalty to save their lives. And the Bruins with a good opportunity to extend their season opening record to 8-0-1 here tonight against the Florida Panthers. Looking up Ekblad's status. They both practiced in regular jerseys yesterday. So it's quite possible that Ekblad or Montour could be in the lineup tonight. That would make things a bit more interesting. But we'll see whether or not they're able to. And if there's any lineup news for either the Panthers or the Bruins, I'll be sure to jump on the YouTube to pop a quick short up there. All right, that's it for today's episode, my friends. A look back at the Red Wings game, Poitras decision coming soon, a Panthers preview. Thank you for joining me. A rough, up and down weekend here. Personally, we had a death in the family as my wife's Opa passed away at 94 years of age. We will be, going through that this week, so there might be one fewer podcast. But on the other hand, we have a new niece, so that's exciting as well. All happened yesterday, so it's been a bit of a crazy weekend. Hope you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves. A crazy weekend around the world at large, of course. Matthew Perry passing away, which was very sad. Adam Johnson's situation over in overseas, passing away. Just a lot of heaviness going on in the world right now. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here tomorrow on a fresh episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.